Today, we're talking about if the Chicago Bulls can break through and make the playoffs this season. And so before we go ahead and we jump into it, I first want to remind you to slam dunk on that subscribe button, just like Matas Buzelis slam dunks in games. And so in exchange for slamming on that subscribe button, I'm going to give you nothing but daily content around the Chicago Bulls. And so make sure that you hit that like, you hit that subscribe, and you join the Chicago Bulls Insider family as we talk nothing but Chicago Bulls basketball. And so with that being said, let's go ahead and let's jump into it as we're talking about predictions and if the Chicago Bulls can make the playoffs this season. And so got a chance to look at this article on Bleacher Report. This is written by Grant Hughes. And within this, he is doing win-loss predictions for every team. And so he predicts that the Bulls will win 38 games and lose 44. And so 38 and 44. And remember last season, this Bulls team finished at 39 and 43. And so this is what he wrote about the Chicago Bulls. And so just really paraphrasing the first two paragraphs, and we'll pick it up here towards the end. But within the first paragraph, he's talking about Vooch taking a decline, and he says that this is something that could offset Matas Buzelis and his second-year production. And then in the second paragraph, he's talking about how Vooch had a career-best true shooting percentage and how this is something that cannot be sustained. And really talking about the Bulls have absolutely nothing behind Vučević on the center depth chart. And then lastly, at the end, he says that in fairness, Chicago has a fringe all-star offensive talent in Coby White. Head coach Billy Donovan instituted an aggressive style that produced a 12th ranked attack last season. If Trey Jones stabilizes the reserves, Josh Giddey manages to sustain his second half gains, and Vooch holds on for another year, the Bulls are going to have an above average offense. And he says here, the last line, that they'll struggle defensively though, and almost nothing here suggests a ceiling above 42 or 43 wins. All right, guys. And so let's start with the first thing that he brings up as a major concern with Vooch. And so I think that Vooch doesn't necessarily have to have another career season. I think that Vooch being able to get a double-double, which I think that that is absolutely possible, will be enough for what the Bulls need. And I also think, too, as well, there is enough behind Vooch right now. Now, does this team have something for the future at the center position? Absolutely not. That is something that they will have to figure out. But with Jalen Smith and Zach Collins, those guys are going to be just fine. And I'm really, happy for the fact that Billy Donovan has acknowledged that, they may have to run, some of these double big lineups out there, which means that he's going to use them some more. And I think that, a lot of people are going to see that these guys can be good players here for the Chicago Bulls and will help them, but not to shift too much focus here from Vooch. He just needs to go out, be a double-double machine like he has been, and also, too, be a source of offense in the half court, which he has done that as well. Because when, the team gets into these situations where, they can't run past the team and they have to get into the half court, you need to be able to go to players that can get you a bucket in the half court, and Vooch is that player. And so for him to just go out there and be solid like he's been his entire career, look, I think that that's going to be enough to push this Bulls team forward. And then next, just going into the Eastern Conference before we dive into some more points around the team. Look, I think that the Eastern Conference is very much wide open here. And I think that the Bulls can go out and get another 5 to 6 wins. And so, when you look at just last year's playoff standings and you look at the team that finished sixth there, the Detroit Pistons, they were 44 and 38. And so the Bulls were 5 games off of that. Okay. So they're right there. Now, I know, it's been disappointing losing in the play-in situation and stuff like that. And I get it. It's a different year. I understand all that. There's the question, can the Bulls continue off the momentum that they had? Get all that. But just looking at the East, let's start there. When you start with the injuries, right? The Pacers, they will not have Tyrese Halliburton. The Sixers, they're not going to have Jared McCain for a little bit because he injured his thumb. Paul George was dealing with something with his knee. Embiid, you're unsure of how many games he's going to play. And so the Sixers, they're probably going to be in trouble this year with the injuries. Then when you look at the Celtics, yes, they're dealing with the injury from Jason Tatum, but they also traded off the team. I mean, they pretty much traded off major pieces that helped this team win the NBA championship. And so you don't have Holiday, you don't have Porzingis out there. Like, that is going to impact that team. And then when you look at the teams that are uncertain, starting with the Knicks and bringing over Mike Brown. Look, Mike Brown, he's been a fabulous assistant here, and he's won titles. And he's also been a very good head coach because he's won the NBA Coach of the Year, but he's not won a title as a head coach. And so I'm not sure if that's necessarily going to push the Knicks into championship status or really help them take a leap forward. And then also, too, with the Bucks, they lost Dame and they also lost Brook Lopez. And so that team and the dynamic has changed a bit. Yes, I still get that you get Giannis over there and you have Miles Turner, but make no mistake about it, Doc Rivers hasn't been able to really turn the Bucks around since he's got there. And then the Heat, yes, this is a team that the Bulls have struggled with, but right now, Tyler Hero is dealing with an ankle injury where he had to get surgery, and he's a main piece over there. And so that's going to impact their chemistry and how their team operates as well. And so right there, you see the injuries. You also see the uncertainty. And so the East is wide open. And why do I think the Bulls can make the jump and get to another 5 or 6 games here? I mean, starting with their young core. And so I think that this is really something that when you look back at that piece, it's just not mentioned enough, because with Josh Giddey and the way that he finished last season, I mean, look, he was definitely on to something once they went ahead and traded off Zach LaVine. You saw how comfortable he was. But if you got a chance to listen to his pressers in training camp, it looks like that he's ready for the defensive challenge even more this season. And so I think that he's wanting to take that step. And he's already said that from a season ago, that he was at this place where he needs to decide which way he wants to go as a player. And Josh Giddey has said that he wants to become a lot better defensively. Now, is he going to be, just an all NBA defender? No, I'm not saying that, but him getting better, that's going to take his game up another level. And then also, too, what you're going to get from him with the offense. And I think that you're going to see some more to his offensive bag. And with Coby White, look, he is coming into a free agency year after this year. Or he's going into free agency, after this year. And so I think he's going to be super motivated. But the fact that he is now in a role where it is something that it's constant and he hasn't been moving around and he gets a chance now to operate off ball, you're going to see him take a step forward. And then with Matas Buzelis, he said it himself. He is looking to be the most improved player in the NBA. And he also said that he wants to be known for his defense. And Matas Buzelis has done nothing but go out there and stand on business. And so, look, that right there has to have you believing in this team possibly going out there and finding another 5-6 games or so in an uncertain East. And then to the point of the backup centers, again, Zach Collins was very good for this team, especially on the defensive end. I think the offense is going to come for him. And what I like about Zach Collins this year in the offense is he's not coming in mid-season or after the trade or whatever. Now he's got a full, training camp with the team. He's going to have the full season and everything else. And so he gets a chance to find his spots in the offense. We know he's a great passer at the top of the key. He can hit the 3 ball, and he's a guy that can work off the pick and roll, and he attacks the glass. And so I love that about Zach Collins. And with Jalen Smith has a very good jump shot when he is locked in. We know he can run the floor as well, and so he will get some finishes that way. And so I think that he's going to be able to take advantage there on the offensive end. I know defensively he struggles a bit at times, but still he can use his length, especially when they go into these zone sets and stuff like that. Maybe that is something that Billy Donovan is going to want to do when he's out there, is maybe go with some more zones so he's not necessarily back there as just the primary rim protector or something like that. But either way, these guys are serviceable, and they're going to be able to come out and help this team. And then also, too, what is not mentioned, and I think is going to start to make some more noise here, is that defensively, this team has gotten better. I think that with Isaac Okoro, he is going to give this team an identity. And I think between him and then also to Ayo Dosunmu, you're going to see this team attack. And I love the fact that, they do mention Billy Donovan and how he changed the offense. Clearly, Billy Donovan is getting through to this group, which is why I think that management continues to go with Billy Donovan, because he does connect with the players. And clearly he's shown that when he wants to install something and he wants the team to really buy in, they have shown that they can do that, when they go and they install this stuff, over the summer and then get it into training camp and then take it into the season. Now, is it perfect? No. I mean, when you look at the offense initially, did it go through growing pains and things like that? Absolutely. But they came together at the end of the season. And I guarantee you they're saying like, look, we know how to play this thing. Let's go ahead. Let's now take it to another step with this offense. And I think that when you look at the defense, you're going to start to see the foundation and just the pieces of this stuff. And you're going to start to see a lot more effort. You're going to see a lot more charges. You're going to start to see this team become a lot more disruptive. And just that energy alone and that effort is going to lead to some more wins. And so I do believe that this team can make the playoffs. Now, it's easier said than done. They still got to go out there and perform. They have to bring in the same energy that they had a season ago. But I do believe that the Bulls can take the step, and I don't think that they're going to take a step back. I just don't see it with the amount of injuries and the uncertainty in the Eastern Conference here. And so anyway, you guys let me know in the comments what you guys are thinking. Do you think that the Chicago Bulls can take a step forward this season and make the playoffs? Or do you feel like that the Bulls will take a step back as predicted here in this piece and get to 38-44? Remember, the Bulls have been finishing at 39-43. And so I'd love to hear what your thoughts are. And look, as we always say, go Bulls, and I will see you guys on the next one. All right, peace.